Hello, welcome to Reframing Mindset Podcast. We are clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity, practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, now welcome back to Reframe Mindset Podcast. My name is Constant Books. This episode we're going to talk about shyness. Yeah, because I guess many of us have dealt with it at time. I was a shy person, and still kind of is. I guess more now. I'm less of that person. I'm more just introverted in the sense that I like to just. If you listen to the podcast episode, you realize that I just want to talk about that topic that time, or when that episode is done. The next episode is really about that topic. Let's move on about it. I guess, so I guess, yeah, shyness, I think, is different from introverted, because I guess I've been both, so I can kind of tell the difference now. Back when I was younger, I was pretty shy in the sense that, I always think about things I want to say to people. And think about it that, what I being where I'm at now, I realize back then that being shy is that I how I usually see my way of doing things is that I have a script in my head. I want the script to go exactly like that. And that's what shyness was to me. I had a script. So when I say certain stuff, the person supposed to say something else. That's certain things back so that it goes the right way. And the thing about it is that when they don't say that thing that I expect them to say, the script is off. Then now I have to start making up things on the fly. So that was me when it comes to shyness. That's why never really like to be with people because you know they never follow the script that I have in my head. So I have to always be making up stuff. And the thing about it is that, but then I never really have much to talk about because you know, coming from where I come from, I never experienced much of what the people I'm dealing with are experiences. Most of those stuff that they're talking about that they experience normally, I've never experienced it, or I've just been introduced to it. Like for example, when I reached high school, it was high school where I officially got internet. So when I usually start, most of my friends, when I reach grade 8, most of my friends talking about anime and all those stuff, and I never had internet. Only anime that I watched sometime was Naruto on TV, and it came on sometime. No, and I don't think no Naruto was. I never had cable, so I never have Naruto. I wouldn't think the closest thing to anime that I usually watch was Avatar, which was a cartoon. So I said I was a late starter. So most of the stuff they were talking about, I had no clue. And then me now supposed to find a way to talk about those stuff when I had no clue. And next thing it was I was younger than most of the people that I'm dealing with. I started school young, so most of the people I was dealing with was pretty older than me, and they talking about stuff and like the first time I'm dealing with. You know, and it's weird. It's really weird. My high school experience was pretty weird when it started because as I said I'm starting from nothing. It uh, it was basically me starting from zero to nothing, from zero to hero. So people have the head start, and I'm getting introduced to all those stuff. And then think about it that the way I was growing up, you know, most of those stuff that I ever deal with it, I'm not supposed to deal with. So it was a really big conflict of interest. So the shyness was a result of that. I was young. Most of the stuff they were talking about I had no clue, so I had no idea really. And they people never really follow the script. a script. And next thing was, I never really thought that much. I was usually just a person that said, okay, I want this. So I would just even asking person for stuff was a jarring experience. Was I was afraid they say no and all those stuff. And then when I reached high school, I was a nerd, bro. And then the stereotypical in the movies, yeah, and the shows they see have the nerd and the popular group, and two of them never interact. And that was me, bro. I was in the nerd place. I just dealt with the people that talk about the stuff that I knew of. The popular people really was a different. Was popular people was more talking about people and stuff like that, and I was introverted. I really like to talk and gossip and all those stuff. That was never me. The nerd, the people that I dealt with, talk about anime and stuff that I was interested, anime and games and stuff like that. So I was pretty. That was okay for me. And the thing about it that there I knew something. Over time I actually started get to know something. So I had something to contribute to the conversation. So when I was dealing with them over time, when I was dealing with them, the shyness was gone. But when I was dealing with other people, bro, it was like foreign. It's like me trying to understand a new language. I was like, what in the world? You know? So after high school now, if you remember, throughout the high school, I started playing basketball, and then over time, I started to get popular and such. But the shyness was still there. I was a person that was still antisocial. I was a person that just deal with the people, like to deal with the people I was dealing with. So that was basically the basketball team and the person that I made friends with over time, in grade 8 class, and the people that over time I started to who deal with the things that I know, you know. And then when I was in science, when fully focused on science or attend science, we, over time, the whole class was doing science. So, I get to have to deal with more acquaintances that over time became friends due to us being doing the same thing, science. And the funny thing was basically what happened was what I realized over time was that they started to change, more than me. I was the same shy person that not going to deal with people, or also not the person that I was going to deal with. But over time, they grew than me. They no over time they changed just to accommodate me. They start to understand my personality, and then they just start to say, okay, Colin is like this. I will just deal with people like that, and that's all. Over time, the the people I consider the popular groups, I started to deal with them because they started to understand how I was, and then they started to accommodate me then. And then over time now, by the time I reached university, I decided that okay, the shyness, I'm going to just get rid of it. But it was impossible to get rid of. But what I could do was kind of mask it. I could be extroverted for a certain time, and then after a while, so what happened was in the university was and I was dealing with women, with women, with girls and stuff like that. The first time that they interact with me, it's I was the most charismatic. I was the most charismatic, but over time as they started to deal with me more, it's like, oh my god, they're really coming back. That was me. Basically. Like, wow, they're really coming back after really make up something I get to talk about. And over time, eventually my introvertedness usually just came back and I really had nothing to talk about. And it's like, oh, so that was basically it. The first time I talked with them, I could make up the most nicest thing to say, the most I could pull up a conversation to really get them interested. But as they over time, conversation would die because I was like, oh my god, they're really coming back again. So I have to really make up something else to talk about. So that was basically it. No, but I left university, leave university, and then unemployed. And when I was in doing that unemployed phase, I was basically just dealing with the friends that I knew from high school, because I never really, the university friends were good and all, but they were persons that I met in university. I never really their type of lifestyle truly was not really that my kind of lifestyle. So I thought the high school friends that I made then was more accommodating. Like for example, when I mentioned back in grade 8, where I said the popular kids deal with more gossip and all those stuff and things that I don't deal with. And the nerd friends that I had was more talking about anime and games, things I was interested in. When I left university, I reverted back to those friends because that's what I knew. That's what I liked. Yeah, but over time now, being in my family's place, over time as the years as I got older, family said, "Okay, you have to really start becoming a man." I have to start becoming a man, and eventually I had to leave my family's place and go out in the world and throw away all those shyness and start dealing with people. And it was a very jarring experience. It was a very jarring experience, but no, that experience made me more social, sociable, and in the sense that I know how to kind of deal with people now. I know when I need to really like talk a lot or not talk a lot. I know that okay, if I'm going a certain place, I'm just going there to buy stuff. I don't really need to deal with people. And some places I would go and meet somebody from my past, and it's like, oh yes, and we can do a casual catch up conversation. Yeah, but no, this shyness is I still see it in me, and I think now more than back then, I think the shyness is not due to me. No, back then it was due to me being afraid and not don't really want to deal with the unknown. But now it's basically the shyness is due to the risk of of pursuing doing the things that the risk of being brave. Certain things I don't want to risk. Like for example, knowing my time, dealing with woman now is a different ball game, because yeah, it's like the risk is really there now. Having a child, all those stuff is more of a reality now. So I have to be like, damn, and little me coming in this world, so that's where the shyness comes in, where I realize is that no, it's not the sense that I'm afraid of dealing with people or whatnot. The m- the the, the difference now is that the risk of the interaction that I'm dealing with, I'm starting to analyze and say, okay, yeah, I'm not rich enough to really deal with this thing, so it's best to rush me, keep it short and such like that. But while also, I interested. So it's I'm navigating it. It's me navigating and understand. So okay, I'm not ready for this yet. So it's best to just do it like this, and then sometimes it's not the right person. I just want that, you know. I don't want to deal with that person. So it's like, you know. So yeah. So I guess this episode is not really anything informative. You just be telling about shyness and said, yeah, you're a person, you could be shy and and stuff in a lot of situation, but I can't tell if it go away. From me, it eventually go away because I had to actually go out in the world and start doing stuff. And what happened was, as I start doing stuff, the risk, like for example, the pandemic and then the war and stuff like that, the risk realization that there, I had to actually start man up, in the sense that I can't just be shy at the time. I had to actually start man up because regardless if I don't do it or not, the problem will come. So that's really what happened. I had to really change. Yeah. So that's basically for this thing. I don't know what you will get from it. Just that, this episode is basically say, you can't run away from it. If you're shy, you're shy. Can't really tell you what to do to really get out of it. It's just that what will happen is that over time, I guess what I can tell you is that over time, certain things you realize that okay, that is worth the risk to break my shyness. That's what happened for me. Certain things I said, okay, I want this, so I really have to break out of my shyness to actually do it. And then when you actually do it now, then you're going to start understand why you were shy, and then just from then you can start to really build up, break out of that, and then you can say, okay, I want to be reserved in this situation. I can be extrovert in this situation. Yeah, but that will happen over time. You don't really have to rush it. You don't really have to rush to really break out of your shy phase. Because the shy phase have its perks. It has its perks. Yeah. So that's basically it for this episode. Yeah. Thanks for listening. I look forward for our next episode. Hmm.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page, Reframing Mindset Podcast, or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.
At the end of October, and yeah, we have to be grateful. We have to be grateful that we're at the end of October. When this is released, it will be the first of November. So yeah. So we made it to the end of October, right? We have to really be I'm really contented now. Usually I would say I would be say happy. I'm pretty contented now. That's the term. So how has October been? It's been a lot of work. Um, ho- uh, and mainly because this time of the year, is usually pretty special for me. Given so the month that we're going into is a very special month for me. I have to be grateful for it. And given the position that I'm now, usually it's a lot of work that I'm actually doing now. If you listen to the podcast,